Hey Eric, welcome back. uh, yeah, been there, done that. uh, yeah, dragons and tabletop are no joke. They've always been that you know, ultimate type of fight that you work your way up to. So, hey Lord Henry, welcome back again. Thanks, I appreciate it. But yeah, glad they made it through. Oh yeah, the answer fight here in the game can be trivialized, actually. Yeah, that's why I say in tabletop, dragons are a much different thing. Some of the things you're able to do again in the answer fight here in this game, your DM just wouldn't allow. Yeah, Lord Henry, it's going to be an interesting respec, and this is not something that I would ever do, but a friend of mine who watches my videos commented that not everybody has the same mindset when it comes to this being a video game versus keeping true to the intent of stuff, so to speak. D&D means a lot to me. Like I've told you guys multiple times, it always has, ever since I was a kid. So I'm willing to take advantage of certain things in the game, but I am not, and I'm willing to accept changes that the game makes to tabletop rules. However, I haven't been willing to accept what are out and out unintended consequences, or things like that. And my friend, we had a discussion about it, and he was like, you know, not everyone thinks like you. And I knew that, but what I was failing to grasp was that there's a large percentage of the population that it doesn't matter if something's in the game, if it's broken, if it's an exploit or whatever it is, as long as it's not against the terms of service or the terms of use of the game, if it's in the game, they're going to use it. And it's not a cheat necessarily. It's something that's in the game, and whether it was intended or unintended, since it's in the game, they feel fine about using it. And I haven't felt that way, but this one, this Respeccing Gale has a little bit of that in it. It's not 100% necessary that you do it, but I am going to spec around it and show people how to use it. Because I would be leaving out a significant portion of the population who would want to be using a build like this to get ahead. And if it works now, then it works now. If it doesn't work after patch 6 or patch 7 or whenever, then it will have to be rebuilt. But that's the great thing about the game, is that you can rebuild these characters at any time, which you can't do in tabletop. So it ought to be a very interesting build for Gale. I'm fascinated to actually try it out. I haven't play tested it, so like I say, I'm fascinated to test it out and see how it works. So now I don't know if Mike is going to be on this stream from the last stream as well. I missed one of his comments in the Bard live stream, and he was 100% right. So I'll probably go back and respec Will off stream and mention his comment at the start of the next live stream. So I'm going to go back and respec Will just in the order that I take the levels, and then go respec Shadowheart to swap her ability scores off stream, and I'll talk about that next live stream. But if Mike does show up here, then I will talk to him directly. We'll see. Because yeah, it was a good comment. I just missed it while I was too busy dealing with the fight, or getting ready for the fight at the town square. Try not to ignore any of you in the chat, but sometimes I get rather involved in what I'm doing and miss a chat comment here and there. So, but that's why I like y'all being here. You guys offer up great comments that make me adjust how I do things or how I see things. So, thank you very much. Today I had beef chili verde, I believe. Yeah, beef chili verde with dollop of sour cream on top. Was really anxious to get in and get lunch. I normally have breakfast before the stream starts, but today my firewood resupply was dropped off this morning, so had to manage that this morning instead of having time to go grab breakfast. So I was pretty hungry by the time lunch rolled around. And I was a little surprised, but I did manage to get chapter markers in on the and a new thumbnail up on the Bard live stream that just went up as well. So bit of rushing around in the break between videos. Do I remember my first death? My first death or my first party wipe? I remember my first death very, very distinctly. My first death was to a pathing error in that I was in the area west of the Blighted Village near the river, and as always I try and explore every nook and cranny of anything, and I saw a flat spot in the middle of the river that was on a rock and thought it might be a secret, so I triggered my jump, hovered my mouse over it, and it said I could land there. And as soon as I clicked, my character jumped, and when they landed, they immediately died. That was my first death in the game, and that probably colored all of my perceptions about how pathing works in the game. My first party wipe. Yes, I actually do remember it. My first party wipe, I started off playing the game. Well, if you're talking about in the full version, no, it was in early access. I played through a little bit of early access, and then the whole thing about getting the Everburn blade from Commander Zalk popped up, and I said, okay, well, I just need to start over. So I went back and started over a new playthrough, got to that fight, and killed Zalk, and the Mind Flayer was still alive. And when I did it, when you do that, the Mind Flayer turns hostile towards you. And it immediately turned around and used its Mind Stun and got everybody, because we were all grouped together around where Zalk used to be. And Mind Stunned everybody in the party. And for 2 turns, I couldn't do anything, and I just got beat up and died, so I had to restart that fight. Hey David, welcome back. Hey Ostamura, you as well. Thanks for being here. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to today's live stream, episode 26 of our Baldur's Gate 3 Paladin gameplay series. I'm Commander Jorval, and I want to thank y'all for coming along on our journey today. So, on some admin notes, the big thing that happened in Baldur's Gate 3 news this week is that Larian put out a tweet saying that next week we were going to be getting patch 6. The patches are normally a lot bigger. There's obviously going to be a lot of bug fixes in it. They've spent some special time also improving some more of the kissing animations between different characters. They've been working on that, adding new ones for a couple of patches now, so they'll expand on that. The intriguing thing that they mentioned is that they're adding new legendary actions, and no one who's playing Honor mode right now is really sure what that means. We don't know if that means that existing encounters, they're just going to get more of them, of the existing ones they had, or if they're getting new legendary actions in place of ones that they used to have, because some of them might have been annoying or too difficult, or maybe they're just making things more difficult. We're not entirely sure. Honor mode is not easy. I know there's a lot of content creators out there right now that make it seem like it's easy. It is not. There's no other way to say that. Don't be fooled by what you might see on build guides and some stuff like that online. You really need to have fundamental understandings of your character abilities, the synergies, and what the legendary enemies are going to be doing. So it's not easy, and them trying to make it harder, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. I don't think honor mode needs to be any harder than it is. I really don't. I think it should be a, 15% or so of the people who try it, maybe 20% of the people who try it make it. But I don't think it should be like 1% of the people who play it make it. That's just not fun for anybody. So we're kind of waiting to see how that plays out, but we'll see more about it once the patch comes out, and we'll obviously talk about it in the admin notes next week after it comes out, so stay tuned for that. So on the second admin note, the NFL football season here in the United States is ending tomorrow with the Super Bowl. So next week we will be back to our regular streaming schedule, which is the Bard playthrough here at 10 o'clock in the morning Central Standard Time, and the Paladin live stream will be moving back to Sunday at its regular time at 2 o'clock. So we'll split the days up again. That makes it a lot easier on me and my voice, and it gives me part of my Saturday back, which is very, very nice for me. So I'll put up a community post about it. I will change the community tab with the updated times, and I'll also put something out on the other social media about it. So just hope to see you then, and be prepared for the back to normal streaming times starting next weekend. So, okay, so for a recap, at the end of last live stream, we had been making our way through various encounters in Reithwin town, and we have one more encounter left in Reithwin town, but we haven't done a respec on Gale. Gale's not going to be utilized that much in the Bard live stream, so I wanted to take an opportunity to respec Gale here on this live stream, since he's an integral part of our party here. And I'm going to go about this a little differently, and I'm going to explain that as we jump in here. Okay, so here we are. We had gone back into Moonrise Towers to clear out our inventory and that sort of stuff after the fight that we had, or the fights that we've had out in the town. And we are badly lacking in action economy. So we are going to need to take a long rest anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And while we're here, we're going to take the time to respec Gale. Okay, so first let's do our conversations here.
I was hoping you'd come to chat. What do you need?
Okay, so nothing new for Shadowheart.
I have a lot on my mind.
What can I do for you, my friend?
Nothing new for Astarion. We'll talk to Scratch, obviously.
Greetings.
Okay, nothing new here.
Well met.
Nothing. There's not going to be anything new for Jaheira. Or Halson. We'll go talk to Gale.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay, so nothing new there. So we'll go back and talk to Scratch here.
The dog wags his tail, a small bag clenched between his teeth. He gives in and surrenders his find to you.
Scratch is, of course, the
Scratch's
goodest
tongue
boy.
lolls out happily, his tail wagging even faster.
Okay, and we picked up a salami. Can send that off to camp. Okay, so we're gonna go over
Excellent choice.
and talk to Withers. Now, Withers, Arabella is next to Withers, and this is gonna trigger a cutscene, because remember, we told Arabella last time that her parents were dead.
A little discourse.
I don't believe it. They can't be.
Breathe, child. Resist not the winds of change. Let them carry thee.
No.
Listen. Dost thou not hear it? Where creation meets ruin, where morning meets midnight, the root of all being. Balance.
They're dead. I can't. Balance.
Your very soul is tangled in shadow. Arabella's magic, wild as cursed briar. Her talent is now yours, too.
The girl must learn the ways of the arcane, but she shan't remain here. The weave knows her purpose. It will guide her plainly, if she listens. Arabella holds a power beyond reckoning, that of the decaying forest and the seedling that bore it. But it is unbalanced. Her yoke is already heavy. If she walks thy path, it will surely break. Arabella will depart once thou dost leave these accursed lands. She will find her way safely. Thus, it is fated.
Bowman, you're making me leave.
Fear not, girl. Abandon not the weave, and it shall not abandon thee.
You feel grief fade as if it were your own. There is a lightness in her now, veiling the power within, soothing it.
Is that my future? Is that why they died?
It is.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Bowman, for being nice. If there are people like you around, perhaps everything will be all right.
Okay, so two things have happened there. The first is that we get the Shadow Blade ring. That allows you to cast Shadow Blade. So it basically, you conjure a magical short sword that deals 2d8 psychic damage. And when you use the sword to attack a target that is in dim light or darkness, you make the attack roll with advantage. And it lasts until long rest. It's a concentration spell, though, that can be cast as a bonus action. The Shadow Blade can be unequipped and equipped again, but must remain on the spellcaster's person. So if you're fighting in darkness a lot, remember, Gale doesn't have a way to overcome that darkness. This would give him advantage on a melee attack inside the darkness, where he might not be able to cast a ranged spell. And that attack would be with advantage, and that would offset the disadvantage of him being blinded. So, could be somewhat useful for him as long as we're not having Gale concentrate on anything else. So that's the first thing that happened. The second thing is that whoever you talk to Withers with during this conversation comes up with a permanent boon for the rest of the game, and that is Arabella's Shadow Entangle. This is a level 1 conjuration spell. You can cast this upon shadows and undead creatures to entangle them. We saw her use this in her fight with the shadows out in front of the graveyard, and this is a way to lock undead into place so that they can't move. Attack rolls against them have advantage, and its attack rolls and dexterity saving throws have disadvantage while they're entangled. So situationally, it can be very useful. It is a concentration spell, so you're going to have to maintain it. But if you're capable of doing that, then yes, it can be situationally useful. That's one of the other reasons that I wanted to use it with Gale, is because I have other ways of dealing damage that I don't necessarily want my frontline characters spending an action to be able to cast that. I want them dealing out damage in other ways. So Gale having the ability to do it just seems very natural for me to have it. So talking to him with Gale wasn't just for the respec, but also to get him that additional spell. But it will go to anybody that you use to talk to Withers about and get that cutscene. So now we're going to talk to Withers and do a respec.
Another. Thy name has been recorded. I shall be here in thy camp for whenever thou hast need of my services. As thou desire.
Okay, so Respeccing Gale, and as I kind of mentioned in the chatting session before we got started, I adhere to tabletop in my mentality. Doesn't necessarily mean that I don't agree with things that are changed or different in the game, but my base thinking has always been how would I do things at tabletop. And it's hard for me to think outside that box sometimes. And a friend of mine reminded me that most people don't have that tabletop experience who are playing this game. So they are willing to utilize whatever's in the game, regardless if it works or not, regardless of whether it complies with tabletop rules, or whether or not it may be an intended thing. If it's in the game, and it's not a cheat that may be against terms of usage or terms of service for the game, then it's fair game to use. And I don't do that, but I completely understand it. And he said that my focusing on how I play things in tabletop may be leaving out a significant portion of the viewing population who want to know the most powerful or overpowered ways of doing something. And that's kind of where this build comes in. I will say that at the start, the way that you start this build off is obviously an unintended consequence, and it does not even remotely comply with tabletop rules, and it probably is something that is going to be patched out of the game. But the way you can utilize it now is in the game, and it works perfect. And then if it gets patched out of the game, it doesn't mean the build is useless. It just means that the build is going to take more time to build itself up to where it is. And this build is based on a build from another content creator, and I'm going to type his name in the chat. Feel free to go look at his videos if you're not aware of them already. He does a lot of build videos and a lot of experimenting and that sort of stuff with the game, and certainly appreciate all that he has done. I'm going to modify the build slightly, but it's still 90% based upon his build, so I'm going to give him credit for this. I'm I have not play tested this other than to check and see if the quote-unquote unintended consequence still works, and it does. It may not work after patch 6 this week. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But I'm fascinated to play this build out, even if that doesn't work, and kind of see how things are going to go. But I'm going to modify it a little bit. So this build is a 3-class multi-class, and it's got different spellcasting ability modifiers through the different classes. And Baldur's Gate 3 approaches that differently than Tabletop. Tabletop, if you are a cleric, wizard, warlock multi-class, then your spellcasting modifiers and DCs are based upon the modifiers and DCs for the class that spell is associated with. So if you cast a cleric spell, it's going to be using your wisdom modifier. If you cast a wizard spell, it's going to be using your intelligence modifier, and so on and so forth. So if you're doing a multi-class in Tabletop, and again, I will caveat this by saying maybe this may be different with DMs, and it's been a long time since I've read the Player's Handbook, but we used to have to keep, if we were going to multi-class into multiple spellcasting types, we would have our individual spells kept on individual sheets separate from each other, so that we knew exactly what modifiers went with each one of those spells that we cast, so that it made it easier for us to be able to know exactly what happened or what the roles were and that sort of stuff. Baldur's Gate 3 approaches it differently. And I don't entirely know why, but it approaches it from the way that if you multi-class, the last spellcasting class that you multi-class into, that is the modifier that it uses for all of the spells that you are going to cast, regardless of whether they are spells for that class or not. So if I do Cleric, Warlock, Wizard, if I do Warlock, Wizard, Cleric in that order, then my Wisdom modifier is going to be utilized for all of my spells, regardless of whether it's a Cleric spell or not. If I do Cleric, Warlock, Wizard in that order, then it's going to use my Intelligence modifier for all of my spells, regardless of whether it's a Wizard spell or not. So the order in which you do this multi-class is important. I mentioned in the Bard playthrough when I respect Will that it didn't matter because my Sorcerer Warlock multi-class, they both use the same charisma stat, so it doesn't matter which one I do first. That wasn't entirely correct, and like I say, if Mike shows up in this live stream, I missed his comment about it, but who you pick first, even if you have the same spellcasting modifier, can determine what starting skills and traits you have to go along with it. You might not get those on a multi-class. Say if you start with Warlock, then you won't get Constitution saving throw proficiency from Sorcerer when you multi-class into it. But if you start with Sorcerer, you get that, and then you can multi-class into Warlock afterwards. So things like that, there are pros and cons to doing it both ways, but for here, I'm going to be mainly wizard based with some splashes of other things, and for that, I need to get those splashes out of the way up front. Okay, this is not a build necessarily that you'd want to do from ground up from level 1 right when you get off the Nautiloid. This is something that you want to be able to respec into later on. And because of that, I'm going to start Gale as a Warlock. We're going to take 2 levels of Warlock here. And as for that, our cantrips are Blade Ward and Eldritch Blast. These are 2 very important cantrips for this build and how the build gets played. The Blade Ward actually being the most important cantrip that you are going to select. Okay, Eldritch Blast is going to have its place here, and a prominent place, but Blade Ward is one of the foundational building blocks of this build. So for the subclass, the Great Old One is, again, the way to go. Fiend, the Dark One's Blessing hit points do not stack with another way that we're going to be getting hit points, so it becomes fairly useless. And Archfey, again, it is what it is. So the Great Old One is the way that we're going to go. We're not going to be landing crits a whole lot, but when we do, the ability to frighten nearby targets is going to be useful. So for our spells, there are one thing here that is incredibly important, and that's Armor of Agathis. Now, if you are building this early, like from level 4 on, you definitely want to take Armor of Agathis. If you are building this later on, then you do not necessarily have to take Armor of Agathis, because there is a better way to get Armor of Agathis. But this is a way to renew it if something ever happens. So I'm going to take it because Armor of Agathis, whether you cast it as a spell here or whether you get it from another way, which we'll see later, is again a foundational building block of this build. Okay, Hellish Rebuke is also going to be something I'm going to take here because ranged enemies are going to be a problem for Gale with this build. So having an opportunity to cause damage to them as a reaction is going to be very useful. So for our abilities here, I'm going to clear these out. Strength is going to be a dump stat for us. Dexterity is going to be set at 14. This is simply to get him a couple of things. One, if we decide to make an armor change, this is going to be the maximum dexterity bonus that's going to be able to go along with an armor choice that goes along with it. But two, this allows him to get higher up in the order for initiative and get prepped earlier on. So Constitution is, again, 14. We want to have the hit point bonuses, but we also want to have some bonuses to help us with our concentration, which we're also going to be dealing with much later on in this build. Intelligence is obviously our main stat, and that's going to go up to 17. Our charisma is just 10, and our wisdom just for the saving throws. Okay, so here's how our build lines out. For our skills, we don't need either of these. We're going to put these into investigation and nature. And now you can look and kind of see what our proficiencies are over here. We're proficient with light armor and shields because of our human and because of our class selections here. This is going to expand a little bit as we go. Okay, so now I'm going to start the level up process. Our next level with Gale is still going to be in Warlock. And that is so that we can take Hex here. An additional source of damage that you can be concentrating on can be useful for this. It's going to be less useful here in certain situations. So Arms of Hadar can also be very, very useful here. Eldritch Invocations are where things are going to get interesting for us. And this is because we are going to ignore the bread and butter Eldritch Invocation for a Warlock. We are not going to pick Agonizing Blast. Remember our party makeup. We are going to be fighting in darkness a lot. This is going to give us Devil Sight. So now Gale can be fighting inside of that darkness without any penalties. The other thing I'm going to take is Armor of Shadows. This allows us to cast Mage Armor as an action. Doesn't need a spell slot. It allows us to cast it as an action. And the only reason I'm choosing this is because of the unintended consequence, or the unintended programming in the game. If this gets patched out, I'll do a respec and go with something else, but not Armor of Shadows. There's a very specific reason for us picking this. Okay, now as far as our spells go, I don't think we don't need to change any of those out. Now level 3 is where things get interesting. We're going to start our first multi-class, and we're going to multi-class to Cleric. Okay. Now, it seems a little odd in changing out to an entirely different class, spellcasting class, with an entirely different spellcasting modifier, but we don't care about that spellcasting modifier. We're doing this, again, for a very specific reason. And now we're going to be going with stuff that is going to help boost us up. We don't care about using this stuff to cause damage, necessarily. So we're going to take buffing cantrips here to help us with any possible conversation options that we might get into, or saving throw options that we get into, or anything like that. For our subclass, we're going to choose Tempest Domain. The reason we are choosing Tempest Domain is because of Wrath of the Storm. So, as a reaction, you can strike back at an attacking creature dealing 2d8 lightning or thunder damage. The target takes half damage on a successful saving throw. And this is going to be a very important part of how Gale deals damage. Okay? Thunder damage is going to be very important for him as we go, based upon how the class synergies work. So for the deity, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to choose Mistra. For the prepared spells, the preparation for these spells are Create Water and Sanctuary. The reason that we took 12 Wisdom is because that allows us to get 2 Cleric spell slots to start off with, not just for the saving throws. We want both Create or Destroy Water and Sanctuary. Okay? The reason that you want Sanctuary is because it's an abjuration spell. First of all, abjuration is where it's at with Gale now. He's not an evocation wizard anymore. He's going to be an abjuration wizard, and there's a reason for that. And now we're going, at level 4, we're going to jump into our last multi-class, and that is Wizard. Since Wizard is the last multi-class we're picking, it's now going to use my Intelligence modifier for all of the spell casting that I'm going to be doing with Gale. Like I say, that's different than Tabletop. But this is how things are going to work for him now. That's why we took the 2 Warlock and 1 Cleric first, so that then Wizard would be our main class after that, because from here on out, it's entirely wizard. So for our cantrips, you can again see that we have options here on what we would like to do. Now, there's a couple of different ways to thinking about this, but Shocking Grasp, as a melee-based cantrip, is going to be fairly useful for us. So we're going to take that. Now, as far as the rest of it goes, we're going to again be focused more on non-damage dealing things, I guess, is the way to think about it. So I'm going to take Friends and Minor Illusion here. So for the spells, okay, we already have these 3 from other sources from our cleric build here. So for level 1, you definitely want to take Shield. You absolutely want to take Magic Missile. Ice Knife early on is okay. As for the rest of it, you can kind of really pick what you want here. It's not going to really matter very much. So I'm just going to pick Find Familiar, Enhance Leap, and Long Strider. Again, more support spells, because I'm not going to really be interested in causing a whole lot of damage with any of these other things. We also have Long Strider from Astarion, currently in our party. So we may swap that out to something else later, but if Astarion's not with us, then we have another way of casting Long Strider. So for our prepared spells, now again, this list of spells here is all the stuff that he has learned through his level ups, but also what he has learned through his reading of scrolls. Okay? So that's important to realize as well, that some of these spells are probably prepared based on the fact that he read them from a scroll. So we're going to not care about our prepared spells. We'll deal with that afterward. And yeah, Eric, here's what you see. They're all still here. Anything that you've read from a scroll is still here. It's in the list. We're not even at our wizard level to be able to cast level 3 spells, but all those level 3 spells are here because of the fact that we learned them from a scroll. So they're all still here. Now we get to pick our subclass, and this is where the build turns into what it is. The Abjuration subclass here gains you something called Arcane Ward. This description is not great. It doesn't really tell you much about what it does or how it does it. We are going to see how this works once we get out of the level up process, okay? But trust me that this is, again, this is how the build works, is based off of this. We also get half, abjuration spells, cost half as much to learn. Not a big deal for us. So now here, again, what you're picking doesn't really matter. We definitely do not need Mage Armor because we got that castable for free as an action. I wish this would put a yellow outline around this, letting you know that you don't need it. But for this, we're just going to pick 2 spells. Doesn't really matter what they are here. Okay, so at level 6, 2 spells that we definitely want to have. One is Misty Step. Misty Step allows you to move around the battlefield, and Gale moving around the battlefield can be very, very useful, especially against ranged attackers. Okay, the next thing is Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray is another one of those multiple target damage dealing spells like Eldritch Blast is that needs an attack roll. And this is going to be something that we're going to be focused as well. However, Shatter is going to be very, very useful for us, and we're going to look at that right here. Okay, so for our cantrip here at this point, again, we don't really care. I'm just going to take Mage Hand, because situationally, if you have it, very useful. And then here for this group of second level spells, again, I think it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other for what you want to do. Shatter, we definitely want to take. And whatever you want to do for the rest of this is really kind of up to you. I think Cloud of Daggers is okay, so we'll look at it. And then for our feet, this is where you start going, huh? And two different ways to look at this feat selection. I'm going to get a feat here, which is at level 7 overall for me. My next feat is not going to be until level 11. Now, the reason that you're taking this feat is because of an item that you pick up in Act 3. Now, you can get that item really early in Act 3. So if you don't have this item, or you don't have this feat, then that item becomes... you can't get the full synergy of the build, and you're gimping yourself. So I am going to take this feat here, just so, even though right now it's not going to be nearly as useful, it is still going to be useful, and it's really going to come into its own when I get into Act 3. And that feat is Dual Wielder. This allows you to wield 2 staffs, one in each hand, and you get the benefits of both. Normally you wouldn't be able to equip it in your second hand because it's not a light, the quarterstaff is not a light weapon, but this is going to allow me to have 2 different staves, or staves, one in each hand. And like I say, right now I don't have the second staff, but I will when I get to Act 3. So that's why I'm taking this feat now. Okay, so at level 8, we gain, again, a couple of very bread and butter spells here. One is Counterspell, and the other one is Haste. These... Counterspell obviously is great. We know all about it. Haste is going to be situationally very useful because, again, if I'm standing in a cloud of darkness, I don't need to be moving around a lot. However, Haste doesn't just do that. It gives you another action. And that is going to be situationally very, very powerful for us, so I want to have it on tap with somebody to be able to cast it. You saw it for a second there. You saw a blue orb around Gale. I'm going to undo my hotbar. I'm going to go into my traveler's chest here real quick. And I'm going to just look around. Okay. So I'm going to have Gale pick up the Flawed Helldusk helmet. Okay, and now I'm going to do two things with my hotbar here. So first is I picked up the flawed Helldusk helmet. I'm going to sort my inventory here. The flawed Helldusk helmet, I'm going to drag into my hotbar here. I'm then going to drag the Ice Bite robe is going to become the main robe that Gale is going to wear. And this is where I differ from Nizar's build. Going to drag that into my hotbar. And then I'm going to drag Invocation of Shadows into my hotbar. Okay. Now, you see right off the bat that Gale has Arcane Ward. So he's got two turns of it, but those aren't really turns. Those are charges of it. Your Arcane Ward blocks damage equal to its charges and then loses one charge. So right now, if Gale takes damage, he's going to have a -2 to that damage, and then that number of charges is going to go down to 1. The next time he takes damage, that damage is going to be reduced by 1, and it's going to drop to 0. Okay, so the maximum number of Arcane Ward charges you can have is 10, and it says casting abjuration spells will add charges equal to the level of the spell. So if you cast a level 3 abjuration spell, it's going to add 3 Arcane Ward charges to the number that you have. Okay? So there's where the unintended consequence comes in. Now, we have a lot of abjuration spells, okay, that we can cast. Armor of Agathis being one. So we could use a spell slot to cast Armor of Agathis, which is going to last until our long rest. And that is going to give us 1 more Arcane Ward charge, since it's a level 1 spell. However, Mage Armor, which is what Armor of Shadows is also an abjuration spell. You can see there, level 1 abjuration spell. Now the thing about Mage Armor is that it goes away as soon as you put on a piece of armor that conflicts with Mage Armor. Mage Armor only works if you're not wearing any armor at all. So as soon as you put on a piece of armor, Mage Armor goes away. So if we use an action to cast Armor of Shadows, you can see we now have 3 Arcane Ward charges. As soon as we put on a piece of armor, Mage Armor goes away. We can put on our Ice Bite robe, and oh, yeah, I can't do it with that. I need to have another piece of chest armor. We can put our Ice Bite robe on, and I need to get rid of that again. And now we have the ability to cast Armor of Shadows again. Now I'm up to 4. Put on medium armor, Mage Armor goes away. Put the Ice Bite robe back on, cast it again. Now I'm up to 5. Okay, Okay, and now we're at 10. You try and cast it, it doesn't go up again. Okay. So 10 charges of Arcane Ward there without having to expend a single spell slot to get it there. Like I say, probably an unintended consequence. Okay. But what I have now is I have 10 damage reduction for all damage that Gale takes. Alright? So if somebody hits him for 8 damage, he's going to take no damage, and his Arcane Ward is going to drop to 9. If on his next turn he takes 5 damage, he's again going to take no damage, and his Arcane Ward charge is going to drop to 8. Okay? However, there are other things that we can cast that will up our Arcane Ward charges while we are in combat to keep that number high. Now, a few things to also help this out. We are wearing the Icebite robe. This grants resistance to cold damage, which is going to be very important for us. It also allows us to cast Armor of Agathis as a level 3 spell. And that means we're going to gain 15 temporary hit points and deal 15 cold damage to any creature that hits me with a melee attack. This is not concentration, and it lasts until long rest. Okay. So now I've got 15 additional hit points, and remember, for me to get a concentration check, all of those hit points need to disappear first. So now, not only do I have 10 damage reduction, I have 15 spare hit points in a pool, so now somebody has to hit me for over 25 damage for me to take any damage at all. But then I have Blade Ward as a cantrip, so now I take half damage against all melee attacks. So now they have to do 50 points of melee damage in a single turn, or in a single attack, for me to take damage. And I can just continue to cast that every couple of turns. So now you kind of see what it is here. Gale doesn't have to do anything. He just stands in the darkness cloud, lets people attack him, and because he's got actually, he doesn't have it yet. I can cast a concentration spell, which is going to mean that melee characters are going to want to attack me more often. He can just stand there in that cloud of darkness, take melee attack after melee attack after melee attack, and deal cold damage back to every single attacker that tries to hit him. Now, that cold damage is what's important. Now, Armor of Agathis, you asked, does it only work with this robe? It does not. In fact, the build that Nazar put together does not use this robe at all. The thing is that Armor of Agathis, here, when you cast it, you can have the ability to upcast it. At level 1, it only gives you 5 temporary hit points. At level 2, it gives you 10. At level 3, it gives you 15. The Icebite robe lets you cast it at level 3. If it let you cast it just at level 1 to get only 5 temporary hit points, it probably wouldn't be worth it to use it. But this robe gets us 2 very important things. First, 15 additional hit points and Armor of Agathis, which is the bread and butter of how this build does damage. And also, it gets me resistance to cold damage. Because of how we're going to outfit Gale, Gale may be standing in a big pool of ice and having resistance to any of that damage that may pop up because of that. If I need to cast a cold spell right next to myself, I'm going to take half damage to it automatically. And then if it's dex based with a saving throw, I may take only half again of that. Okay. So, and yes, Lord Henry, that's exactly what you're talking about. This build, you don't necessarily want to be stacking armor class together here. You want to take melee hits. You just don't want those melee hits to be so powerful that they overwhelm your damage reduction. But even if they do overwhelm your damage reduction, right now, I'm not concentrating on anything. So all I'm going to do is take damage. I'm still going to have my arcane ward. But what's going to happen is that if they overwhelm my damage reduction, then again, my temporary hit points start going away. Armor of Agathis then starts going away, and I might need to recast Armor of Agathis later on, which is why I took it, because I can only use this once per long rest. Okay, so now let's look at the gear for Gale here, because this is where things start getting synergistic. So the first thing is that we don't care about shields anymore. Okay, we just don't. We are looking to dual wield here, and the first thing that we're going to dual wield is Morning Frost. Now, Morning Frost has the Heart of Ice trait, so whenever I deal cold damage, I'm going to deal an additional 1 cold damage to it. So anybody who attacks me, who's going to take damage from Armor of Agathis, is going to take a +1 bonus of cold damage to that. Then it's got Insidious Cold, and this is where things start getting a little bit broken. Because Insidious Cold, whenever I deal cold damage with a spell, Armor of Agathis, or the Ray of Frost, which this gives me Ray of Frost as a cantrip. That's why I did not select it as one of my cantrips, because it's now given to me with this staff, and this is all the way through endgame with this staff. Whenever I deal cold damage, it can possibly inflict chilled on the target. And now the affected enemy is vulnerable to cold damage. So if I stand in somewhere and I get 3 people that attack me and they all hit me and they all become chilled, the next turn when they hit me and Armor of Agathis procs, I'm now doing double cold damage. Now, the thing is, they don't even have to try and hit me. I can trigger their attacks of opportunity by moving away from them to get them to hit me. So Gale now becomes the movement king, right? He wants to be able to move everywhere, so he can move into and out of attack range of enemies to trigger their reactions, opportunity attacks, to be able to chill targets. Okay? To make them vulnerable to cold damage. So now, the next couple of things that we're going to need for him are going to be a little different than the build. So the first here is I'm going to put on the Disintegrating Nightwalkers, because now I can't slip on ice. So if I'm moving around out there and I'm in ice, I'm not going to slip and fall down on it. So that's a very important thing to have. Another thing that's important to have is the Snowburst Ring. So whenever I deal cold damage, I also create a 4.5 meter circle of ice on the ground around the target. So now I get enemies hitting me. Armor of Agathis procs cold damage, creates ice around them, they slip and fall to the ground, and now anybody who's laying on the ground I have advantage on attacks against them made within melee range. So that's another important part of it. As far as the amulet, I don't have it. I don't believe. I don't. And as far as the gloves, I don't have them either, but we can go get the gloves. Okay? And that's what we're going to go do now that we're taking our long rest. Okay, so we're going to go to bed here. We're done. Okay, so now we are going to take a little bit of a detour here. So first we're going to get Gale
So might as well.
back up here. Okay, and now we're going to use, we're at 7. We're going to use Armor of Agathis here. Now you can see we're up to 10.
Have a lot on my mind.
Okay, so for here, we're just going to leave our camp. Actually, Lae'zel wants to talk to us.
First in my heart.
It is as we knew. My people have turned their blades against us. They will emerge from the shadows and descend from the skies, and we will grant them their only just fate. Death.
Okay. And yes, Ostamura, it did take a lot of work to figure this out, and that's why I'm giving credit to Nazar for this. That's why he typed his channel in the chat, and I will do it again here. Feel free to go check out his channel and the build guides that he's done. There are some very interesting things in there to go along with this. So this is just one of the many things that he's done. But we're going to go grab a couple of items here to help flesh out this build a little more. And the first thing we're going to do is go back to the Trielta Crags waypoint in the Githyanki Crush.
Moving in.
Okay, we're going to walk down here. We're going to have a conversation with Lady Esther.
Seems like a good moment to talk.
A friendly face. Oh, you are a sweet, sweet blessing, my dear. You know, I've had nothing but trouble all day. I've been accosted, chased, insulted. Look over there. Do you see that wretched little hive? Oh, it certainly looks that way. But inside, it is swarming with brutish, stupid, rude Githyanki. They have the audacity to call that hole a creche, as if it weren't actually a murderous training camp. Honestly, I was doing them a favor offering to buy one of their eggs. And how am I repaid? Attacked and run off like some transient. What? No, of course not. I was merely... well... Look, it's just an egg. The Society of Brilliance asked me to acquire one of their roe so they can incubate it and, once it hatches, raise the spawn in their tradition. The Society believes a Githyanki raised in a peaceful, nurturing environment can overcome its violent nature. Hogwash, of course. A Githyanki can no more rise above its nature than gnomes can fly. You've been sipping from the same goblet as the Society. Perhaps you'd be willing to help then, to prove your point. They may have chased me away, but surely the Gith would welcome a person with such sympathetic views to their creche. And once inside, you could simply purloin an egg. You'll be well compensated, of course. Just bring me an egg.
Okay, we already have the egg here, but we're not going to give it to her. If you don't know what happens, regardless of which egg you give to Lady Esther, when you get to Baldur's Gate, the Society of Brilliance location, everyone will be completely dead. And that's because either a Githyanki youth, if you gave her the Githyanki egg, or an owlbear cub, if you gave her the owlbear egg, will have killed everybody. So I don't necessarily want Omelum or Blurg to die. Lady Esther could probably use a little bit of undead being, but not the others. So in this one, I'm not going to give them an egg. Now, you can get payment up front here if you would like with a persuasion check. So really high DC. I can get advantage on this with friends.
I suppose there is a reason I'm asking you to do it. Very well. Here's the money. Now, I expect a speedy delivery.
Okay, so we got 442 gold out of that. I'm going to talk to Lady Esther.
I trust that an early payment has ensured swift action. What news of the Githyanki egg?
Okay, we're just going to go trade.
Very well, but I'll make note of how much time you waste trawling through baubles.
Charmed, I'm sure.
And what we want are the Winter's Clutches. As far as the rest of this goes, I'm probably just going to pick these up. For possible future builds. Oh, whoops. I need to trade instead. So we're going to pick up Winter's Clutches, the Periapta Wound Closure. Now, the Boots of Elemental Momentum can give you momentum for a turn, or for 2 turns, which would increase your movement speed. However, if you're using the Cold Burst Ring and you're walking around on a bunch of ice, or the Snow Burst Ring and you're walking around on a bunch of ice everywhere, that additional momentum probably won't do you any good. But they're cheap, so I'm going to go ahead and pick them up and just put them in my chest for, like I say, possible future build stuff. And let's see, does she have anything else? So she does have 2 potions of superior healing and 2 greater. And the rest of that should be fine. Ooh, the black and furnace red dye is really nice, though. Fine. Okay. So now, as far as the rest of this goes, we can clear out some of our inventory here. We don't need any of this, and I think everybody... Well, actually, we'll go sell it back there, because we don't need to do anything with Lady Esther.
Happy, are we? Very well, then.
So now let's go to Gale.
We're a long way from Waterdeep.
And first of all, we're going to put some of these things away. We're also going to equip the incandescent staff on the other hand. That's going to get us our fireball back and the firebolt cantrip again. And then here is, let's get rid of some. So the graceful cloth, we've talked about this before. Increases your dex by 2. Gloves of cinder and sizzle, we don't need. The robe of exquisite focus, I don't need anymore. Okay, so for this shield, I don't need. Arachnear bracer, I'll keep. Those are don't weigh much. Okay, I'm going to keep the Sentinel shield. The Sentinel shield gains me a +3 bonus to initiative rolls. So it's like a poor man's alert. And if I don't care about fireball as much, which I probably am not going to, I can always swap this out to gain him more advantage and then swap on his initiative roll and then swap out of it for the cost of an action on a turn later on. But something I'll keep in there for now. I don't need the Shield of Scorching Reprisal. Okay. And I think that gets me where I need to be. Oh yeah, the Boots of Elemental Momentum I don't need. Okay. So what we're going to change out to on the gloves here. What did I do with them? Okay. Don't know where I didn't see them. So the Gloves of Winter's Clutches. When the wearer deals cold damage, inflict 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost upon the target. Encrusted with Frost is just like heat and reverberation and lightning charges and all those sort of things. They build up over time. So the affected entity has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. That means all of that AoE spells that they're trying to avoid, they're going to have disadvantage on those saving throws. When there are 7 or more turns stacked up, the entity must succeed a Constitution saving throw or take 1d4 cold damage and become frozen. Now, frozen is that they are completely covered in ice and incapacitated. So the incapacitated condition is just like any of the others. Now at that point, bludgeoning, thunder, or force damage, you'll see it when it happens. I'm going to have advantage on all of the attacks made against that target. And if I deal bludgeoning, thunder, or force damage against that target, I'm going to deal double damage. And then the frozen condition goes away. So once that builds up, they become frozen. And then I have an opportunity to cast something else, like Thunder Wave or Shatter, or something like that, and cause double damage when I do it. So we need to look at our prepared spells here. Okay, so now out of level 1, again, Shield and Magic Missile are always needed. Chromatic Orb is going to allow me to do various types of damage. I can pick whichever Chromatic Orb I want to do. So I could launch a Chromatic Orb of Cold, freeze targets, and then launch a Chromatic Orb of Thunder to do double damage against a frozen target. Okay. So that becomes much more useful now. I definitely want to have Shatter. That is, again, another 3d8 thunder damage spell that has a bigger radius, but also if they're, again, inorganic materials such as stone or anything like that, then they have disadvantage on that saving throw. I also want to make sure that I have darkness. I need somebody else to be able to cast that out of the group as a backup, just in case. Glyph of Warding, again, can do cold damage or thunder damage. I just have to pick it. So Glyph of Warding becomes an AoE cold damage spell now for me to use. I'm going to hop in at this point with whatever I want to pick out of these, and I'm going to pick Counterspell, and for now I'm going to pick Haste, and that's because I have Misty Step from the Disintegrating Nightwalkers. Okay. So now do you kind of see how the synergy works in the build here? And I need to get out from behind that before it makes everybody seasick. I'm sorry, I wasn't watching that in the background.
No time to rest.
So now you kind of see how the synergy works. Sorry, I'm going back to the chat here. Hey Smurf, welcome. Now, I didn't mean to spend so much time on respecking, but respecking always takes me about 45 minutes because I really have to explain the synergies involved with it here. But now we're going to fast travel. We're going to head back to Moonrise, and we're going to pick up another piece of this puzzle. Yeah, Rick, that's probably where you're right. I'll probably be able to use it today, and then I won't be able to use it again because they'll patch it in patch 6 this week. You watch. That's the problem with making build videos like Nizar does, is they're probably going to get patched out this week in the next patch. So now we're going to head into Moonrise, and we need to go to a special location, and this location you need to have Gale with you anyway. But to do this, we're going to go in and have this cutscene inside here.
I did as I was told! Followed every order I was given! The facts suggest otherwise. You were ordered to retrieve the artifact. You failed to do so.
Take it up with Minthara! She's the one who...
Enough!
A blast of mental energy washes over you, filling the room. Your tadpole squirms, urging you to obey.
You failed to retrieve the artifact. You failed to protect your true soul. You do not deserve to live.
You ain't serious. You can't be.
General Thorm?
Let our newest arrival speak. You have seen what these creatures are capable of, and you have seen their inadequacies, isn't that so? What is your judgment?
We did as we were told. We're loyal to the Absolute. Tell him!
Enough! True Soul, tell the General how the goblins served our cause.
Thank you. It's good to be appreciated.
I'm sure they were very enthusiastic. But zeal without efficacy is for children, not servants. We are too close to the ending, and the new beginning. I can coddle failure no longer. Kill them, quickly.
What? No! You creaking old bag of shit!
sorry, my lord. She's an unbeliever outside my control.
Try again. Dispose of the rest as you see fit. Or better yet, put that true soul to use. They've proven themselves reliable.
Of course, my lord. Thank you. You heard the General. The goblins are yours. Deal with them however you wish. Here in the seat of the Absolute's power, your authority over them is complete. They will obey any command. Report to me upstairs when you're done.
Yeah, you ain't gonna do anything drastic, are ya? We've been nothing but loyal! Oh God! Please.
The seat of the Absolute's power, occupied by a general that cannot be killed. But his followers are flesh and blood.
And one more thing after coming out of that rest that I need to do.
Ring, ring! Oonta scooter! You look like you want to say the magic words, like they're right on the tip of your lips. I sure love it when they beg.
Okay. I found out that disappears when you respec any of your characters. It stays after a long rest, but if you respec, it goes away. Okay, so we need to head upstairs now. Okay, so there are a bunch of things that you can do and people that you can talk to and all that sort of stuff. Disciple Zarel is right here. She has one way of being able to do this. But we're going to go in here and go all the way to this back corner. I need to bind my packed weapon. Thank you, Eric. I actually didn't read it this time. I remembered, but thank you very much.
Can't afford to stay idle.
Okay, I'm gonna break my group.
Never mind. Wonder if the gods are watching me. Try me.
Okay, and I'm gonna kill the scrying eye, and then I'm gonna go close this door.
Here we go.
Okay, now here this door is locked. You can get the key from Disciple Zarel if you pass a persuasion check to convince her that you're loyal to the Absolute, which we certainly can do. Or we can just have Astarion pick it.
With pleasure.
Okay, total bonus 11. I might as well throw in a guidance here. And I can have Gale cast it too. Well, let's not. Let's have Shadowheart cast it. Oof. Would have made it without guidance, but just barely.
What to do?
Okay, we're going to drag everybody in here. And we're going to close the door. Okay, now this is Balthazar's room. Okay, we haven't met Balthazar. We've heard a little bit about Balthazar.
My faith will guide me. It shall be done.
The corpse does not respond.
Okay, so that is going to allow us to have green outlined corpses now.
My faith
with
protects
her,
me.
which we want.
At the ready.
So there's a lot of stuff in here to read. So the first is this book, Attention Acolytes. Okay, acolytes are permitted to enter my chambers for the sole purpose of collecting moon lanterns. My library is not to be tampered with. While the Absolute appreciates your eagerness, my bookshelves do not. Any request to borrow them must be given to me in advance. Should you desire information on poisons, do not think to read any tome on the subject here. Remember, the Absolute's purpose is better served by a beating heart than a poisoned mind. Though if you choose death, I will ensure you serve her well. Okay. So that book is a clue. You walk over here, you pass a perception check, and you see you have some books that are outlined here. So, conventional medicine, galvanic interrogations, poisons and venoms, and musty tomes. Okay? We want musty tomes. Okay, so there's a click from the ancient altar here. The ancient altar is going to allow you to insert something in it, and that something is a heart.
Maybe I need more pockets.
Okay, so now you can go to the ancient altar. And now we have access to this secret room back here. Now first, we're going to move over to the opulent chest here, and we're going to lockpick it.
Should be easy.
Okay, so again, a 14 DC.
Seek and you shall find me.
Now, inside this chest is an elixir of necrotic resistance and the cold brim hat. Okay, so not only is it kind of cool looking, looks like a real wizard. The cold brim hat, once per turn, any condition inflicted on a target also applies 2 turns of encrusted with frost. So again, now not only are we putting encrusted with frost onto a target whenever we deal cold damage, now one of those targets, once per turn, once they get encrusted with frost, which is a condition inflicted upon them, will also get 2 more turns of encrusted with frost put on them. And that helps me get that target closer to frozen even faster. But also makes them, through my other things here, chilled and vulnerable to that same cold damage. Okay, so now we're just stacking up frost and encrusted with frost on
The necromancer was
enemies.
experimenting on the tadpoles.
Okay, so now inside this room here,
But they were already imbued with Netherese magic. So where did that magic come from?
we have broken moon lanterns and dead pixies, and there's a ritual circle here on the table. Now, you want to have Gale with you when you do this. And there's a very, very important thing that happens here. So we're going to go up there with Gale and have him look at the ritual circle.
A ritual circle. Judging by the shadow sigils inscribed, it was used in the creation of Balthazar's moon lanterns. Though its power is weakened, you could still use the shattered pixies Balthazar discarded to craft one final lantern. Not to repel the shadows, but to wield them. Mystra forbids the use of such magic. She would insist the sigils be destroyed, the circle's evil dissipated. But she is not here, and you are.
Okay, so the first option here is to craft the Shadow Lantern. The Shadow Lantern allows you to summon a shadow to fight for you. So it becomes a summon, just like anything else. And it's not a bad summon. It really isn't. However, the other option here, erase the shadow sigils, for Gale is a much bigger deal. Mystra, like it says, Mystra is not going to like this. And Mystra is actually going to like this. So this is the option we're going to pick. But again, feel free to pick up the ingredients and craft the Shadow Lantern if you don't really care. Like I say, the Shadow summon is a pretty decent summon to have.
It doesn't take much. The sigils fade, the circle's tainted magic dissolving harmlessly into the ether. For the briefest moment, you feel the touch of a reassuring hand on your shoulder. Mystra has noted your service.
Okay, so now we can talk to Gale.
Not as bad as it could have.
Did you feel that? If I wasn't surrounded on all sides by the darkness of the shadow-cursed lands, I'd think it was Mystra herself brushing against my skin. That's Mystra's power for you. Where there's even a trace of magic, she will be there to bring it to life. There's clearly some magic in you if you were able to sense her presence. But I think I felt something stronger. She's left some tiny part of herself to watch over me, I think. A boon to help us reach the heart of the Absolute in one piece. True enough. And somehow I doubt that's an order Mystra will be willing to rescind, no matter how many times I impress her. The stakes are simply too high. Strange, though, that she would reward me for such a service now. She's hardly been forthcoming on that front since my banishment. Perhaps I'm overthinking things. A blessing's a blessing, and this one should come in most useful.
Okay, so Gale now has Mystra's Benevolence. And Mystra's Benevolence gives you advantage on concentration checks. Now, there has been confirmation, and I hesitate to say confirmation because I believe I only read it from one source, but that source was from the development team, that Mystra's Benevolence is supposed to be a permanent buff. It's not supposed to go away at a long rest. Currently, it still goes away after a long rest, I believe. I have not tested this in a long time because I didn't actually take this in my personal playthrough. I took the Shadow Lantern. So I have not tested this in a long time. We will see what happens with it. But Gale has advantage on concentration checks. So all of his concentration checks that he makes, if they get through all of our damage reduction and our temporary hit points, he now has advantage on those checks. So again, can be incredibly useful. However, watch my playthrough here, and when we take our next long rest, if it goes away, you may want to hold off on this room until they actually fix the bug, if they haven't done it already. I'm anxious to see if there's a flag in the game that knows you had it and it went away after a long rest, and the game file will know that, and it will actually give it back to you if you were affected by that bug. Not entirely sure how it's going to happen or not, but we'll kind of watch it and see if it goes away, because I know a long time ago, and by long time ago I think it was November or December, one of the forums confirmed from Larian support that it was going to be fixed in an upcoming patch. We've had a patch since then, and I didn't read about it being fixed in there, but I could be wrong. So maybe it is fixed and I just missed it. Maybe it's not, and it's going to be fixed in an upcoming one. Don't really know kind of where we're at yet. So in here, there's a bunch of stuff that you can look at. There's a traveler's chest over here and all this other sort of stuff. We were only here just for the Cold Brim hat. We weren't here for any other reason. So we're not going to stick around out here to deal with it. We have something else that we want to go deal with, and that's the Tollhouse here. You can see that that is the last area outside of Moonrise here that we need to deal with. So we're going to go over there and take a look at it. And it looks like we have gone north out of here, so... Okay, so we're going to go exploring around the outside of the Tollhouse first. Now you can see detection cones, okay, inside the Tollhouse.
Should mind my step.
Where am I on my... Okay, so I still have enough. Checking my encumbrances here. I don't need to read that, I just wanted to pick it up. Don't need to talk about that again, I know what it is. So we're going to save this center section. For after we come out of the Tollhouse.
Thorm shown in Selûnite armor. Is there any god that turncoat hasn't bowed to?
So yeah, Shadowheart's obviously a little bit upset about the fact that he used to be Selûnite, now he's Sharan, and he seems to have worked against them both at one point or another.
Wish I had a bag of holding.
Okay, and you can see that we're getting some markers inside of the Tollhouse now with these visages that are in here. We're going to see more about that as we go. Okay, so we have an entrance down here on the bottom that will get us into the Tollhouse. We have these vines that lead us up to the roof of the Tollhouse. And more importantly, we have a waypoint over here. Okay, we have some crates that we can search.
The town Tollhouse.
There's a key here.
There might be something useful in there. Seized goods and the like.
Okay, so now we can kind of make our way up to the Tollhouse. So for this, I'm going to want to make a change. Okay, and I'm going to put on the Soulbreaker Greatsword here, and I'm going to bind that as my packed weapon.
Should mind my step.
And there's a very specific reason for that. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to do it. I've already done it in my personal playthrough, but there is an achievement to be gained here. Okay, so you see down here that we have gold kind of scattered around every once in a while. You don't want to touch it. But you can go exploring a little bit more around here. These are the double doors that lead you back outside, where we just were.
What do we have here?
Okay, and you can see down here, we have a visage. The Visage of Obedience. Okay, if you examine it, it's vulnerable to psychic damage. It's accursed coins. This cursed visage controls part of the coins protecting the toll collector. That's important to know as part of the mechanic that goes into this fight. Okay, is that this one controls part of the coins that are offering some sort of protection for something called the toll collector. It also has shadow visage, which means the visage is floating in a shadowy limbo. It cannot be damaged until drawn into combat, which means you can't just walk around out here and kill everything, all of these. You actually need to enter into combat for this thing to be damageable.
Nothing of value.
Okay, but what I want to do is kind of take note. Now, the Visage have 34 hit points. Okay, so they have a decent amount of hit points available to them. All right, so I'm going to kind of station some people around to be able to deal with them. So I'm gonna leave
The mission has to come first. Tasteless.
Shadowheart down here, I think. No, I really want her to be upstairs. I'll leave Astarion down here, even though not entirely. Well, he might be able to. He might be able to kill it. So I'm looking at detection cones here. So it looks like there's the toll collector walking around. I'm going to go try and get some people into some other locations. So we have another visage right above me. Yes, I'm going to get to that here in a second, Eric. Okay, so here's another visage over here. And there's another one up top. This would actually be a good one for Gale to be around. I believe. Okay, good. All right. And then I'm going to go up here with my Paladin. I'm going to leave Shadowheart down here in reserve. The last thing that you want to do before you go into this fight, make sure you sort all your inventories by type. If you are carrying any gold, you want to put it in your camp chest. That would have been bad for Astarion. Okay. There's a reason for that, and it goes into the mechanic that plays out during this fight. Yes, I've already dealt with one of them by talking them to death. The other two, I'm going to fight to show you what the mechanics are like. You can talk your way out of this if you want, but I'm not going to. I want to illustrate how this fight goes. So you need to be aware of where these visages are. There's one right above us, right above Shadowheart. There's one over here in the corner on the ground floor by Gale. There's another one up above Gale, up here. Okay. Nobody is hostile right now. So I can pop out of hiding here.
Never wanted the easy
and I can walk up here and have a conversation with the toll collector.
What do you bring?
So this is Garangoth Thorm. So again, another of the Thorm family here. And you can see she is completely covered in gold.
I require gold.
Okay, so you can toss the creature a gold piece. You can start going down the path of trying to talk your way out of this.
No! 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 You must pay!
Okay, now we don't have any gold. We specifically got rid of it all. So we're going to choose this option here.
If you cannot pay, you cannot pass! Gold! Gold! Gold!
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I'm really anxious to see how long that goes. Okay. This thing might be bugged completely out. But is it bugged in a way that hurts her? Oh boy. Okay, we'll see how this plays out. So she is almost always going to roll first on initiative. She is just one of those characters like Marcus where they just give her initiative bonuses to go along with it. But if you examine her, you can see she does have a high dex to begin with, but it's artificially inflated in the code where she's almost always going to have to go first. She's got 606 hit points with an armor class of 16. So, notable features, she's alert. So there's the additional +5 bonus to initiative. She has coin armor. She's an armored and enchanted coins. This creature is clinking emblem of gold and greed. Could there be a method of removing the armor without destroying the coins? And yes, she's wearing 6 pieces of coin armor here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 up here, and then there's 1 down here by Astarion, and there's another one underneath Gale over here in the corner. If you kill, for each one of these you kill, and remember, they have that accursed coins feature, each one of them controls one of those pieces of armor. So for every one you kill, a portion of her hit points is going to be removed. So that's the goal here, is to kill the visages and remove her hit points so that you can finish her off a lot easier. Okay? Now she has fast hands, so she has an additional bonus action, and she uses that additional bonus action for one thing, and one thing only. And that is to cause the gold that is laying around on the ground here to become explosive. He can turn these gold pieces into an explosive mine that will activate, and for an area around it will cause an explosion. And you'll have one turn to move out of that AoE before they go off. Okay? So the mechanic here is to kill the visages and remove her hit points and then take her out. Now, she has something that's not listed in this list, and that is she has something that's called like gold retribution or something like that. When she hits you with that ability, her damage increases by however much gold you currently have in that character's inventory. So Astarion, he's carrying 1,000 gold. He's going to get one shot by the toll collector if she casts that ability and hits him with it. That's why you take all of your gold and you leave it in your camp chest before this, because then even if she casts it and hits you with it, you have 0 bonus damage that goes along with it. It's not in this list anywhere. I wish it was. But it is not, so you don't know about it until the first time she hits you with it. And then, yeah, things go bad. Things go real bad. So for now, we're going to work on taking out these visages here. Okay, so we're going to start down here with Astarion. This visage, oh, it moved. Okay, well, we have a clearing in the detection cones. Did this one move too? This one moved as well. So they all moved up top.
Where do I go from here?
Yes, they did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's the 6th one? There it is. Okay, so this is what I thought happened, because these are the same positions that I found them in my playthroughs. There's always 3 along the back wall and 3 in this L shape here. So this is good, because now it doesn't matter where we positioned everybody. I was really worried about being able to kill as many of these as I had. So we're going to pick Shadowheart here. The top of the stairs should always be clear when you start this, assuming that you rolled above the visages and they did not move. Yeah, see, there's no detection cones up here. Okay, so we're going to move Shadowheart up here next to this one. We're going to cast Sunbeam. You're only going to be able to hit 2 of these. You can't hit 3. I've tried it a dozen times. Okay. Unfortunately, this one's saved. Okay, and now for me, I'm going to start going after these, and I'm going to try and position myself in ways that I can hopefully take them out with one hit and then move to another one. So, what is my chance to hit? 95% now? So I'm going to use my bonus action to jump toward this one. Actually, let me see. Okay, so I can move straight at it. So I'm going to use my bonus action to jump straight at this one. And now I'm going to make an attack against the Visage of Greed here. Okay, I'm not going to use Luck of the Far Realms. I am going to use a Divine Smite, though. I need 20 hit points. Okay. Perfect. And you see that now she's down to 506. Every one of them you kill removes 100 hit points. And now I'm going to move this way and try and kill this second one. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to bring Astarion up here. Okay, and I'm going to bring him around and try and finish these others off. Well, when his full turn commences. Okay, so 8 points here. Perfect. Okay, so now he gets his full turn here. And I want to try and finish this one completely off. So anything that hasn't had a turn yet, I'm going to get crits against. Remember. So let's see if we can finish this one off. Okay, so he's got 9 hit points left. I think that's going to be too much. Yeah, I'd have to roll max damage on that. So I think I'm going to cast Hunter's Mark here instead so that I can start upping his damage. Instead of using that.
It's bright.
Okay. Now we'll start moving Astarion over to the other side, and now Gale is left. Okay, can he actually climb up there? He might be able to, but I don't know as if I want to take the chance.
Very well.
Like I say, he probably could have walked up, climbed up the roots here and not be seen, but I don't want to take the chance. I want to get him over here without having been seen. And not a big enough radius with that. Okay, so I think we're just going to go after them here. And actually, that's a good question. What does Proliferate Warding's radius look like? Again, not big enough to hit them both. And that means that Fireball's radius is not going to be big enough to hit them both either. It's not. I might have been better off trying to use a Fireball against these two and having Astarion attack this one. So maybe a bit of a misplay there, but we'll see. So we'll go after this one here. Okay. So it got hit with not enough. It was 5 to 40 potential damage, and I only rolled 22. So that was a little unfortunate. But now I've got my full turn here. So what does he have left? 12? I think that's going to be enough here. Oh, come on. I should have used Hex first to guarantee that kill.
Nothing important is ever easy.
Shall we dance?
Let's end this. On I go.
I could cast Spiritual Weapon out here and see if it has enough. Well, see where it rolls in initiative. Okay, so it's gonna roll before the next one. Okay, so now maybe I can kill this one. Perfect. We'll move this way. Now, she's going to get a turn. Okay, now, here's where the achievement comes into play. If you can kill her before she has a chance to activate any of these, or turn any of this gold into a minefield, then the achievement's going to proc. Now, the real way to do that is because you can see that was one turn for us there, and we took out 5 of the visages, and we're going to easily be able to take out the 6th one and kill her on the next turn. The real way to do it is to go up and try and incapacitate her. So try and stun her, try and banish her for 2 turns, try and hold monster her if you're high enough level to be able to cast it. Something to stun her and prevent her from taking her turn. Now, I didn't do that. I'm anxious to see what she does with her next turn, because I don't know if she's bugged out here trying to get into this vault or not. I really don't know. But that's why I put
Sometimes the only way
the Soulbreaker Greatsword on, is because I have a chance to stun an enemy with a hit with this. So that's why I brought it. I didn't use it because I'm actually, like I say, I'm really anxious to see how the rest of this is going to play out. And honestly, since I've already got the achievement, I don't need to get it again. And you seeing what happens with this gold on the ground if she does it is probably more beneficial. So, but for now, that's the achievement. So you would try and get up with her as much as you can. So get Shadowheart to banish her, or something like that, or get a stun off, or get a hold person off from somebody using a scroll if you've got it, or something like that. Anything to keep her from taking a turn. Okay, so there's combustible coins. So in this case, I would not get the achievement because she has made these coins combustible. Okay? So I was anxious to see what was going to happen there, but this is how you would avoid that, is by going up on your first turn and incapacitating her somehow. Me, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to finish these things off. So for here, I'm going to jump to here. I'm going to drop an attack there. I'm actually going to use Luck of the Far Realms. Am I? Yes. Okay, and now she has 6 hit points left.
On my way. Free from the curse now. Perhaps she'll find peace.
Okay, and now you're going to see the coins explode. Okay. So that is how you do the fight. In my personal playthrough, I still was not able to kill all 6 visages in the first round. I just didn't have enough action economy to make it work. Even with Astarion getting full powered sneak attacks, I still was not able to get it to kill them all. So the only way to get the achievement really is to, that first turn, find a way to incapacitate her. And then you'll be all right. Okay, does it kind of make sense? If you have any questions, type them in the chat. Like I say, I haven't been watching chat as I was explaining the mechanic here. But that's how you do it. And now we are definitely going to take our short rest. To get our stuff back. And we can search her. So we've got 250 gold here. We've got the master's office key, which we're going to need. So here it looks like somebody was planning to trade illegally within the Tollhouse with her. And then we have the Twist of Fortune. And the Twist of Fortune here doesn't seem all that interesting. When you roll 2 or less with this weapon's damage die, re-roll it and take the new result. So it's kind of like an up-buffed version of some of the re-roll 1s, things that happen. So it does allow you to get more damage. So if you roll a 1 or a 2, then it's going to up-roll it again and take the new result. It's a +1 weapon. You also have tenacity, so even if you miss, you're going to deal 1 bludgeoning damage anyway. The thing about Twist of Fortune has nothing to do with what you see here. It's what you see here. So, for blood money here, so strike out greedily, dealing an additional 3 slashing damage per 300 gold that the target possesses. The gold will then be consumed after the attack. Okay, so blood money in and of itself ups the damage a lot. It goes from 6 to 16 to 13 to 26. because of adding in the additional slashing damage that goes along with just this weapon action. But then, for every 300 gold that the target possesses, 3 slashing damage gets added on. So, yeah, that's where, when you're carrying around 7,500 gold, and you run into this weapon, things can get really bad when that 7,500 gold is an additional 75 damage per hit, and then that gold disappears from your inventory. Okay, so it's not a great weapon to get hit by. Luckily for us, she didn't even do a melee attack on anybody, but even if she did, it would have taken 0 additional damage and not taken any gold out of our inventory. But it is an interesting weapon, and if you want to go look at some really funny stuff online, go look at pickpocketing gold and the Twist of Fortune. Trust me, it's hilarious to watch. So from here, now that we have all of this done, we can go around and we can pick up all of the gold here. We can also search the visages. They don't ever have anything on them, so you don't have to worry about them. So I'm just going to go pick up all the gold here.
Don't mind if I do.
And then we're going to systematically work our way through the Tollhouse. Okay, now we have a plaque over here in the corner.
Seized inventory.
Okay, and you can see
Well,
inside here, there's another room. We can't seem to get to it. There are shadow-cursed vines with 160 hit points in front of it, and they've got medium toughness. So you need a hit to deal at least 22 damage to even cause any damage to it to begin with. So we'll come back and take a look at this, and it's resistant to piercing damage. It's immune to psychic and poison, and resistant to radiant damage. Ostamura. Yeah, like I say, all you have to do is go watch some YouTube videos. It's hilarious. So we'll walk around here. Let me see where we are on our inventories. Okay, so we have a little bit left on our Paladin, and we can start cleaning out the Tollhouse here. Okay, the clerk's key, which we're going to need. There's I think 3 clerk's keys in here. And again, we're going to be systematic about moving our way around here. We're going to stick to one floor at a time, and we're going to pick a direction to go so that you don't miss anything while you're in here. Okay, so there's an opulent chest in here. It's not trapped. Okay, and we have this safe door here. If you look at this side, you can see there's a broken safe over here.
What
but
now?
Nothing there for it.
Tread lightly. What's that?
Okay, now this. If you find the safe, I'm inside. Had to shut myself in to avoid the shadows. There's no gold. Garangoth moved it to her personal coffers, and I'm unarmed anyway. Just let me out when the shadows are gone. The combination to unlock the safe has been written in big, bold handwriting before.
The heavy door grinds
Okay.
open.
So you
The
don't have to
combination
lockpick it if you pass the perception check to find the note on the wall. Okay, and sure enough, there's no gold in here.
The skeletal remains of the hopeful survivor still waiting to be rescued. Their desperate refuge now their everlasting tomb.
Okay, so it didn't work out for them.
Still breathing, despite everything.
Okay, so we have a room off to the side here. Camp supplies. And that's just a force of habit at this point. I can't remember how many camp supplies I have, but it's in the thousands, I do believe. So I don't think I need any more. Oh, so we bought black and furnace red dye, and now we got some more.
How much farther can I go?
Okay, so we're going to clear out this center walkway here, and then we're going to come back. Okay, so we searched it, and now we'll come back and head this way.
Bet that'll fit in my pack.
Okay, and there's a locked door here. Always click on them first, because you may have picked up the key already. And
Wits and blades always sharp.
Wish to live in more interesting times. Breathe deep and move.
okay, come on. Hard to maneuver around in here because of the roof being above us. Okay, so we'll bring Astarion in here to pick this chest. Actually, I think this key,
For a skeleton key.
but it doesn't matter. Yeah, Ostomer, what really makes that, or pushes that build over the top is Marco Eshkir. So if you have it, it's a big boost. So, Gloves of Battle Mage's power. When the weapon attack roll inflicts a condition, the wielder gains Arcane Acuity. We've talked about Arcane Acuity before. You gain a +1 bonus to your spell attack rolls and spell DC for each remaining turn. Whoops. We'll send those off to camp. Oh, don't pick it up.
Don't waste a step.
Okay, so we've cleared out this side here. We have this door here that's locked. And now here.
Protects me.
Okay, that really annoys me.
At least things have stayed interesting.
Can't cash through doors again.
What am I to do?
Looking ahead. Have to keep going.
Okay, perception failed.
I'm ready. Whatever it takes.
Okay,
That
so
might be
she
worth it.
found the floorboards here.
can't give up now.
We'll do some searching here in the office. So, yeah, a little ledger here, a little book. There's an absolute outfit here, which has got an interesting look to it. We've seen those before, or seen the look of it before. And here you have the Iron Vine shield. So while the wielder is holding a weapon empowered with Shillelagh, and when they are hit by a melee attack, the attacker takes 1 piercing damage. So Shillelagh we learned about during our Druid playthrough. It's the spell where you can take any club or anything like that and make it magical and deal 1d8 bludgeoning damage with it, and your attack rolls use the spellcasting ability modifier. So again, interesting, but not something that I'm going to be using. Then there's a Tollhouse ledger here. Official record of all the goods that came through this place. We can take the portrait. Now we have the Toll Collector statue here. Let's go search over here first. Okay. And yes, you certainly can.
You picked the wrong fight, friend.
Of course, it's immune to slashing damage. So if you fail the perception check here on the floor, then if you do hit the statue here, it will fall and break the floor for you. I think that was probably the original intent behind it, because if you noticed, when I passed the perception check for the floor, you couldn't just move your mouse anywhere over the floorboards. There was like a couple of areas in the corners where it actually showed you the floorboards. So, not entirely sure it was originally meant to be targetable, and it might have always intended to be broken with the statue. But either way, that is not the only way that it is doable now. So here, when you jump down in here, you're going to take fall damage from it, unless...
Yes?
And is Gale still got them, or did I put them away? Okay, so he's got Mistress Grace.
Quite.
Still alive, so that's progress.
Oh, Shillelagh? Yeah, it's an interesting word. Even English speakers don't really know Shillelagh, honestly, because... okay. Because of the origins of the word. And I don't want to get it wrong. Because I don't want anybody to take offense on it. But it's one of two countries, and but again, like I say, I don't want to get it wrong because those two countries hate being confused with each other. So I don't want to get it wrong. So here we have sturdy doors, and yes, vulnerable to force. And yeah, now my question is, can I jump through this or not? I can, kind of, but it doesn't want me to, and that's because I didn't pass the perception check. So it's right there. So you know, that's an interesting question, chat. Can you get out of here? I mean, I can get out of here. I can Misty Step back up top. Yeah, I was gonna say, Smurf, I was almost 90% sure it was Irish, but I didn't want to say it was Scottish and offend the Irish, or say it was Irish and offend the Scottish. So, but yeah, that confirms what I thought anyway. It's so, chat, if I haven't passed the perception check and I can't hit the button, is that my only way out? Is Misty Step backing up top my only way out of here, other than getting somebody else to come down here and pass the perception check? Yeah, it's kind of what I thought. I mean, I could go back outside. I can use my map and go back out here to Reithwin town and be right back outside. So I tend not to try and do that. Again, I think that's a little exploitive. So I try not to do that, but I was just curious if that was the only way to get out of here. Was that. I think it is. So I'm gonna make my way back here, and I'm gonna Misty Step up. And again, I certainly could teleport. Okay, so now the question is, oh, I might be able to just Misty Step right outside. Yes, I can. Okay. So Gale is going to get the Disintegrating Nightwalkers back on.
Still alive, so that's progress.
Okay, and now I'm going to head back upstairs and meet up with everybody real quick. So again, I can do this systematically. Put a few boxes and jump up. Yeah, I guess that's very true. Okay, so now we'll group everybody back up, and I think we've... Oh, we still have this... the stuck safe door here. Now for this...
If not over, then through.
I think...
Trust no one.
I think this is a strength check. But I'm not entirely sure.
Let's move.
It's been a while since I've done it, so let's see if I can actually... Yeah, lockpicking's impossible.
No one back home will ever believe this.
I think this one is a strength check. So... I can put on instead. That would give me 21. That's only another +1 bonus. Where is the Club of Hill Giant Strength?
What to do?
Okay, so it is a strength check. Why I can add guidance to this, I'll never know. Oh. There we go. We've got full inspirations. Oh, come on. All I've got to do is roll like an 8. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Lord Henry, I agree. Ropes are horribly underutilized in this game. Okay, so there's 514 gold inside the safe here. Now I think, yeah, there's still some crates over here, but I don't think there's a whole lot in them. I can't remember. Been a long time. Okay, and now we're gonna head up.
One day I'll catch a break.
To the roof. Okay.
Curious.
So we did find the rotten floorboards here. Okay, and now we have another one of these rooms here, and we're going to break our group and send Astarion down here. Now there are... Oh, and you know Astarion never put Longstrider on everybody after that. Let's not forget that. And I need to transfer the club back to Astarion. Okay.
One step at a time.
So now again, jumping down into here, you're going to take fall damage. You can also try and jump up and or Misty Step up from here. And these are those vines that we saw that we really can't get through. You can, it just takes forever to do it.
Hardly a challenge.
Oh geez, the rope is the single most important item that any of your party can have in tabletop. Ask anybody who's played tabletop. So the Fireheart Amulet here is a heat-based item. Whenever you take fire damage from another creature, you gain 2 turns of heat. That can be very, very useful, especially when going up against fire-based enemies, mephits and that sort of stuff. Fire mephits or magma mephits can be extraordinarily useful to have. And I think that's it. Not gonna search all these. Yeah, don't ever cross a footbridge without a rope. That's exactly true. That is the thing that DMs live for. Is you crossing a rope with, or crossing a footbridge without any rope. I mean, Eric will tell you, all DMs are a little bit sadistic when it comes to their parties. And that's just one of those things.
No time to rest.
I'm anxious to see if it will pathfind all the way up there for a star again. Okay, can't even get me onto the roof. Yeah, I think there are some missed opportunities, though. You would think that they're, like, for instance, that room. That room where you're jumping out of a window here. Maybe there could be something like a cleat or something. If you interact with it, it pops open a dialogue box or that insert box. And if you have rope, you can insert it into the cleat, and then a rope would drop down, and you could interact with the rope and climb down. Same thing for me jumping down into here. Maybe there's, you know, a stone buttress or something up here that you could interact with, and maybe you have to pass a perception check, you know, something like that. And you put it in there, and the rope goes down into the room. But it only works after you've already discovered and broken the roof up here. If you try and interact with it first, even if you put the rope in, it doesn't do anything because there's no hole for it to go into. I think there are literally dozens of things like that in this game that could have added in what to tabletop players is an essential component of the gameplay.
Let's go.
And I think there's just some missed opportunities there.
At least things have stayed interesting.
Okay, so the roof up here, this is the vines that we saw at the entrance that take you over here. You can traverse across the roof. Okay, I don't believe that there's anything else to be found up here. Oh, I forgot about this. Yeah, rope right there. That would be perfect. Leave a set of rope in a backpack over here, and then you need to take it over here and secure it to, you know, maybe this stone buttress or something. I mean, that would be a perfect thing, and it wouldn't seem like it'd be that difficult to provide the coding for.
Interesting
either.
times.
So, it just is what it is, though. So the Rumor of Reithwin book here talks about how things are now turning towards Shar instead of Saluna. The Tollhouse basement key we're going to take here. The club +1 and all this sort of stuff. I picked up the bone. Didn't need that. I'm still encumbered, probably because of that great club. Yep. Yeah, because see, I mean, they're perfect application. Rope here, going down and all that sort of stuff. You would, like I say, I think there's just some missed opportunities. But it's not like I'm going to go around bad-mouthing Larian for not putting rope into the uses for rope into the game. Not after all the amazing work they've put into this thing. Yeah, I mean that's probably true. I think, Eric, if you just limited it to a few of the very specific situations like that one that we just encountered, it wouldn't be bad. But yes, if they implemented it like, you know, a wall or like climbing in Assassin's Creed, where you have to specifically code every wall that's climbable to be able to do it, that allows you to attach a rope to it, then yes, you're right, that would get absolutely overwhelming from a coding perspective, and, you know, things would get out of hand. But like I say, I just think there's a few missed opportunities. But it is what it is. Like I say, I certainly don't have any complaints. And you know what? I can't. Okay, so it's the door right here.
Here goes nothing.
Like, I can't remember how to get down there.
Might be useful.
Okay, so we did come out down here. This is that room that we just came out of. So we're going to systematically search down here. And then we will make our way into the basement, which we just picked up the key for. Okay, this takes me outside. Okay, camp supply. That vindicates me searching wicker baskets. Okay, now we have these Thayan shipment boxes.
All the way from Thay. Jewels and gems, probably. One's still in there.
Silks from Cormier? No. Just cobwebs. What's this? Cheese. Something that used to be cheese.
Or something that used to be cheese at this point. It's been literally 100 years.
It's mine now. Quick step.
Okay, so we'll go search over in this corner, and then we should be ready to head outside and head to the basement. Okay, and I think that's about it, except for what we're going to be getting into over here. Because this safe, I don't think you can open.
Let's get going. Another step forward.
Okay, so we'll head out this back door here and head down the stairs. Okay, and we have seen this before. This area here is where you can jump across to the docks.
dull moment.
But here's some heavy oak doors. And this will take you down into the basement. Use the Tollhouse basement key, and I need to take a break for 2 minutes. Be right back, everybody. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. You know, when certain people call you on the phone, you just know that when they call, it's going to be an emergency or something, so you pick it up. So, sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to change to Shadowheart here. Okay, I'm gonna break my group.
Something over there. I'll go this way. Worth a rummage?
Finish searching around down here, and then we will take a look at that button on the wall. Okay. Now in here we have a gilded chest. Doesn't appear to be trapped. Scroll of Hold Person is very useful. We have a bunch of expensive stuff here on the table. And remember when they said that Garangoth was putting all of the stuff in her personal stash? Well, guess what we have found? Okay, and then we have some roots here.
None shall see me.
Okay, a bunch of crafting supplies. Skeleton here with the Mason's Journal. Okay, Pid describes his work on a secret tunnel leading from the Tollhouse basement to the exterior. The final entry takes on a sinister tone. The excavation's almost complete. But she hasn't dropped a single coin and she's got no shortage of threatening stares. So he turned away from the guild to do this. But things didn't turn out well for him, obviously. Okay, and elixir of bark skin, that's always good.
I'll take this way.
Okay, just taking a look through here. And chat, you guys are gonna have to remind me. It's been too long since I have done this. Is there anything else I'm going to find down here? Because honestly, I can't remember. Doesn't look like there are any ways out down here. So I don't think there's any other way to go. But yeah, I think that's it. You know, we'll put this stool upright. Never know. Nothing. Yeah, I think that's it for down here. I don't think there was anything else other than the crafting supply down here.
No one stopped me yet.
Okay, so over here on this side, a heavy chest.
Very well.
Well, let's go look. Against one of the skeletons downstairs. So there's a bunch of skeletons over here. I think I see what you're talking about, Smurf. You might have seen this, whatever this thing is. I don't see anything on left alt. And if there is, it's not selectable. But good eye though. I didn't catch that. Again, like my chat. You guys are great.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay, so now you can see that we have cleared out most things. We can go down here and actually cross over into this area here and clear out the outsides after that horrific encounter we had against the Adepts and everybody last time, where the most amazing cast of Hunger of Hadar happened. Because there's nobody left alive out here.
Quite ready for you.
on it?
To see us steal. Oh, Gale must have been really close to already being encumbered. Yeah, he was. Okay, so Astarion and Shadowheart still have space.
I must keep going. Might find something useful.
Okay, and I think we got all of them here. Okay, camp supplies. Again, at this point, don't know why I'm still looting them, but force of habit.
Might as well take a look.
Adept Bell. Like I say, I'll give you credit, Adept Bell. You certainly put me through the ringer with that Hunger of Hadar. Okay, now out here on the dock, you have a lot of crates that you can search out here. Yeah, we're going to get down to that end here in a second. Okay, we have a Zentarum shipping crate here. We're going to hold off on that. Yeah, it's right there, Lord Henry. Yeah, that I can definitely see that, Ostomer. It's going to be hard to have more than one window open with a controller and having to move your controller to select between the two. At least we can have multiple ones open here. I don't do it very often. But yeah, having multiple ones open and then being able to hit escape to close out of all of them at once is very, very useful. But again, PC things. I've been there and done that with controller with all the Xbox playing I've done in my life. But yeah, just being able to click outside of the window and have it close, that's another thing that's really, really nice. Okay, so some arrows for Astarion. Now we'll come up here to the Zentarum shipping crate here.
All right, what now? Swift as my feet can carry me.
A wave of sick familiarity radiates from one barrel amidst the cargo. Tadpoles, sleeping and scarcely aware, but echoing yours 100-fold.
Look at them all. Enough to infect an entire army.
The winged serpent of the Zentarim. It seems their pursuit of profit extends even here.
Okay, so I'm going to leave because of intelligence here.
Tadpole squirms, and feels a legion of echoes in response.
Okay, it's a 14 DC here, so I'm gonna have to roll fairly well for this. Good deal.
A pattern of blank minds newly born. They carry only a bare shred of memory, inherited from something older. A sleep of centuries. The birth and destruction of a settlement above forming only background noise to the dream, until something descended down into the darkness, and the dreamer awoke.
These tadpoles came from beneath the tower. If we use them, we'll deny the cultists of their power.
Okay, so I'm at 7
That is still
now.
placid. Thousands of tadpoles happily await the winged serpent of the Zentarim. It seems.
And now I can't remember what I'm supposed to do with this. And you said that, yeah, I don't see a ship around here either, and there might be farther around the corner or something. I think I just have to steal it? That what I have to do, chat?
I'll grab that.
Okay, yep. You just steal it.
Is that blood?
Okay.
No, never mind. Light on my
And
feet.
last thing we're going to do is just move around this outside and open this up down here. And then we will be ready to end the stream.
What's in here?
Keep a blade close.
Okay, more scrolls here. Arrows for Astarion. And I've never used the small cat hole here.
Got to keep moving.
I wonder if that takes me up top to where the cat is, which I don't know as if we've seen yet in this playthrough. So I'm going to go stand over here and
With haste.
I will think about that for next time. Okay, so that gets us to a good place to stop. We have now explored all of the area east of the river. We have now explored everything north of Moonrise. We have the gauntlet up here, which will be the final thing that we do. And then we still have a little bit to explore around Moonrise, and we have a bunch of things inside Moonrise to do. And that's what we're going to be focused on next week, is going into Moonrise and doing all of the content that's there. Because like I say, there's a lot to do there. And it's way too much for us to go through just in part of a live stream. So we'll spend some time doing that next week, and then we'll see how much time that takes and whether or not we start heading out toward the gauntlet or not. So we've got some interesting times ahead of us for the Paladin playthrough. So as always, thank you everybody for being here again today. I certainly appreciate it. Without your support, none of this would be possible. This is Commander Jorval saying until next time, fare thee well.